morning. How's everyone doing this morning? Last service was like this, and this service, you guys are very chatty with each other, and I like it. That's a fun way to start the morning. If you don't know me, my name is Larissa. I'm one of the pastors here, and I get to work with our next gen, which is babies all the way through our young adults. And I've grown up in this church. I've been here since the day I was born, and so I'm excited to be here today. I'm excited to be speaking in this series. I don't know about you, but this has been incredible so far. I've had many conversations with you and friends just about how relatable and practical this series has been, but also convicting in ways. And so I'm excited to be sharing from it today. The series that we're in is Fighting for Your Family. And the core tagline for this is fighting for your family is not rooted in what you do. It is rooted in who you want to become. And I love that because I'm never where I want to be yet. I always want to continue to grow. Beginning of this series, we've been looking at Nehemiah's words from Nehemiah 4:14. Fight for your families, your sons, your daughters, your wives, and your homes. He was talking to people who were tired, scared, and ready to give up, but he was reminding them why the fight mattered. And we are exploring in this series 7 blessings that come when we choose to fight for our families. The first week, Scott talked about the fight, kind of defining what the fight is and how do we fight for our families. The second blessing is we can have joy because we have the hope of Christ. And then last week, Becca gave a message on the blessing of safety. And if you haven't listened to that, please go back and listen to it. It was an incredible message. There were so many things she said that I was able to take home that day and apply to my family. It was so incredible. So go back, make sure you listen to that. Today, we are going to talk about the blessing of responsibility. Because families don't thrive by accident. They thrive when somebody steps up and takes responsibility. And I was thinking about it as writing this message. Scott, when he talked about joy, I was in the room, and it was like, who wants joy? And it's like every hand up in the room, obviously, right? We all want joy. And even last week, Becca saying, who wants safety? Gosh, of course, we all want our families to feel safe. But today doesn't feel as an attractive of a question to ask you, who wants to be responsible, right? We do all want to be responsible, hopefully, but sometimes when we say who wants to be responsible or hear that word, I can get a little bit of a pit in my stomach because we all want to be responsible. But what about when things go wrong and there's blame put on you and you want to maybe point fingers elsewhere? Or maybe when you're tired and all the responsibilities that you have start to feel like too much. I don't know about you, but I can relate with this picture right here on a daily basis of what it can feel like sometimes in life. So why is responsibility so important? Because our world is not responsible. Why are we fighting? We are fighting up against a culture that is irresponsible. So what does it look like for us to be responsible for our family, and why do we want to be responsible? Proverbs 17:6 tells us, grandchildren are the crowning glory of the aged. Parents are the pride of their children. Sometimes the greatest gift we can give our families isn't money or advice or success. It's the stubborn, consistent daily act of just showing up. And every time we push past those excuses and that exhaustion that life does bring and choose to be there, you're telling your family, I'm choosing you over everything else that could have been in my way today. Your family doesn't need you to be perfect. They need you to be present. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Because one of the biggest blessings you can give your family is being reliable, trustworthy, and responsible. And being reliable, trustworthy, and responsible doesn't just happen. It begins with a decision. And then decisions after that, small, big, it requires a commitment and follow through. You can't have a functioning community without people you can rely on, and it starts with you. And it starts with your family and the people around you. There's a story of a dad who suddenly lost his job, and he didn't want to stress his kids out. And so every single day, he got up like normal, put his work clothes on, and he left the house. And he would go to the library, and he would go to all these different places and apply for jobs and network. And then eventually got a job and kind of got back into normal life. And years later, one of the sons said this, I didn't even know what we went through that season until I was an adult. All I knew was that my dad showed up, kept loving us, and carried the weight so we didn't have to. That's responsibility. It's not glamorous, it's not always pretty, it's not always easy, but it's about showing up day after day. And there's a story in the Bible, and one of the clearest pictures of that kind of responsibility is a guy named Joseph. So let me set the stage for you. Joseph was the great-grandson of Abraham, the guy who God told he would make a whole nation from his descendants. Abraham's son Isaac was the father of Jacob. Jacob had 12 sons. Now, hold on. I have one son who is 2 years old this week, and I can't imagine a household with energy of 12 sons. Just picture that for a second. Whew, God bless Jacob. Anyways, so 12 sons, and Joseph was his dad's favorite son. Let's be honest here this morning. Raise your hand if you know you are the favorite child in your family. I love seeing this. Okay, now be honest. Raise your hand if you know you are not the favorite child. Okay, this is so fun to see this. Good job, everybody, being honest. Okay, so we're going to jump into Genesis. It says, Jacob loved Joseph more than any of his other children because Joseph had been born to him and is his old age. So one day, Jacob had a special gift made for Joseph, a beautiful robe. But his brothers hated Joseph because their father loved him more than the rest of them. They couldn't say a kind word to him. One night, Joseph had a dream, and when he told his brothers about it, they hated him more than ever. So, right from the start, Joseph grew up in a very dysfunctional family. Jealousy, favoritism, bitterness, hatred. And without raising our hands, I wonder how many of you maybe can relate to that in your family. Because it can be the healthiest of family and the most dysfunctional, and we still are prone to these things in our lives. In this story, we can see that even in a messy family, God can raise up someone who chooses to be responsible, and through their responsibility, blesses generations to come. And so I want to identify today 3 principles that we can do to become more responsible. And the first one is yes, be yes, no, be no. When Jesus was on the side of the mountain giving his most famous speech, he told the people, just say a simple yes, I will, or no, I won't. Anything beyond this is from the evil one. It's a pretty powerful statement from Jesus. And what does it mean to be anything else is from the evil one? What Jesus is doing here is he's cutting through the gray areas we often find ourselves in of maybe and we'll see. He's saying, let your yes mean yes and your no be no. But the problem today in our world is often we have people in our lives, and maybe we're guilty of it ourselves, who when we say yes or we say no, people often don't even believe us because of the past and maybe what our reputation brings. I used to have someone in my life who was incredibly enthusiastic and be the first one to say, I'll be there, yep, I'll help, I love this, I'll see you there. And unfortunately, they had a pattern of not showing up again and again and again. And I love them, but I cannot rely on them. And because of that, and because of time that has happened, I cannot rely on them, and our relationship has changed because of it. So I wonder how many of us maybe struggle with being this direct. We hem and we haw, and we don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, so we're not as direct. We don't want to offend anybody. There's a time in Joseph's life where we see him live out this principle, even when it's difficult. So I'm not going to stand up here and say that it's easy, but what we'll see in this story is that it is worth it, and there is blessings that come from it. After Joseph was sold into slavery, he ended up into Potiphar's house. Joseph worked hard, honored God, and proved himself to be trustworthy. Potiphar noticed, and he gave Joseph full responsibility of his household. He trusted him completely, and then came a test of integrity. And after a while, his master's wife, took notice of Joseph and said, "Come to bed with me." But he refused. "With me in charge," he told her, "my master does not concern himself with anything in this house. Everything he owns, he has entrusted to my care. No one is greater in this house than I am. My master has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God?" And though she spoke to Joseph day after day, he refused to go to bed with her or even be with her. Then she didn't give up. It continues. She caught him by his cloak and said, "Come to bed with me." But he left his cloak in her hand and ran out of the house. Joseph did not hesitate. His no was clear. It was direct. It wasn't a maybe. It wasn't a let me think about it for a few days. It was a no. And us as families have that same struggle every single day, what we are going to say yes to and what we are going to say no to, what we are going to allow into our homes and into our hearts and in our children, and what we're going to keep out. And sometimes it's a lot easier to say yes than it is to say no, and that's why it's hard. It's easier to say yes to skipping church than to say no even when we're tired or our schedules are busy. It's easier to say yes to an unhealthy dating relationship instead of having those hard conversations and putting those boundaries up. It's easier to say yes to being friends with your kids instead of saying no and having those guidelines in that relationship to help them make wise choices. It's easier to say yes to another credit card swipe instead of saying no and living within a budget. It's easier to say yes to hiding your mistakes than to confess and ask for forgiveness. Joseph's no cost him. Potiphar's wife lied about him, and Joseph was thrown in prison. Saying no isn't always easy, and standing firm on our boundaries, it can be very uncomfortable. But here's the thing. If responsibility isn't a burden, it becomes a blessing because our no protects our family, protects our heart, it protects our faith and our future. Being responsible means having the courage to stick to your no. And I want you to hear this. Sometimes saying no is better than saying yes and not showing up. You will let people down. You will lose their trust. And it's way better than the alternative, to be truthful. And at the same time, responsibility doesn't mean you never say yes, but you say yes wisely, because sometimes people in your life and around you need to earn your yes. I remember when I was younger, I was teenage years, and I had this habit of anytime I went out with my friends or got to do something fun, my parents would give me their debit card. And I was really responsible. It never was like an issue or anything. But one day they sat me down and they said, I don't think you understand how money works. Just because we hand you this card doesn't mean there's just always going to be money on it. So what we're going to do is we're going to not give you the card anymore, and we're going to give you money at the beginning of the month, and that is your money to manage. You can use it as you will, but that's your money, and you won't get any more until the beginning of the next month. And let me tell you, there was many months that money was gone like that. The first weekend I had the opportunity, and then I had to suffer the consequences and learn and miss out on things the rest of the month. But they were teaching me responsibility. I was with a friend last night, and I was with her and her daughter, who's a teenager, and her daughter got invited to a concert with some of her friends, and this singer that they were going to see just doesn't align with their family morals, and so the mom told her no. And I'm standing in front of them, and I'm seeing this tension, and the daughter's rolling her eyes, and the mom's kind of like, I'm trying my best here, and it's hard. This daughter is mad at her mom, but her mom, we talked later without the daughter there, she said, I'm just trying my best. I'm just trying to go against maybe what feels normal for other people, and I know she's mad at me right now. And I said, oh gosh, I can't imagine. I'm in a season, I have a 5 and a 2-year-old, and I get to tell them how to do everything and what to do, and they better listen. But she's in a season where she's just trying to be there for her daughter, but also set those boundaries up. And I know her daughter's gonna look back and thank her someday. But when you're in the moment, it's hard. Our words and our actions show responsibility to people, and it's hard sometimes. So think about how your yes or no can build up that responsibility in you and in the people around you because they're watching you. Second thing that we can do is to speak the truth. Sometimes being responsible means having the courage to say what people need to hear, not what they want to hear. Because truth is the foundation of trust. And without truth, families, marriages, communities crumble. And when we avoid the truth and we hem and haw away around it, or we sugarcoat things to not hurt anybody's feelings, it ends up hurting people and losing trust. And yet telling the truth is not easy. It can be difficult. And Joseph shows this when Pharaoh had troubling dreams that no one else could or would interpret. It says, Pharaoh said to Joseph, I had a dream and no one else can interpret it. But I have heard it said of you that when you hear a dream, you can interpret it. I cannot do it, Joseph replied to Pharaoh, but God will give Pharaoh the answer he desires. Joseph gave all the credit to God, and then he spoke the hard truth. 7 years of great abundance are coming throughout the land of Egypt, but 7 years of famine will follow. Then all of the abundance in Egypt will be forgotten, and the famine will ravage the land. Now, this was not easy news to deliver. Nobody wants to hear about 7 years of famine, but Joseph told the truth, and then he gave Pharaoh the plan. Store up the grain during the good years so you can have them through the bad years. Telling the truth is not easy, but what it does is it gives the opportunity for people around us to live in reality and know the truth even when it's uncomfortable. I think of my husband and my daughter just recently went to the bike park across from Walmart over there, and it's their kind of thing that they love to do together. So my husband has his bike, my daughter has her little bike, and they go. And they're at the top of kind of the starting point. My husband goes, and he's going. My daughter's just in awe watching him. And he comes up, and she's like, "Good job, Daddy. That was awesome." And as they're kind of celebrating together, another guy comes around, and he starts to go. And this guy is good. And he's going. And they're just watching. And he comes back, and he finishes. And my daughter goes, "Daddy, that guy's way better than you." Probably doesn't feel good in the moment, but my husband said, she was right. He was really good. Think about maybe your friendships. Are you the type of person who kind of just listens or maybe doesn't speak the truth to somebody, maybe stays silent? Sometimes our silence can come across as we agree with what a person's doing and we're for what they're doing instead of maybe being honest and challenging them a little bit about their choices. Think about your spouse. Maybe you're running out the door one day and they says, "Hey, can you stop at the store and get this?" And you know in your brain, I'm going to forget. I don't have time today. But you say yes because you're trying to make them happy, and then you end up forgetting and letting them down, right? There's a million examples like that. Being honest can be hard, but at least we are being honest, and it doesn't feel good in the moment, but it builds trust. I don't know about you, but I am someone, if I have something in my teeth, please tell me. You've never met me, you don't know who I am, you've seen me at the store. If I have something in my teeth, please tell me. I want that type of honesty from everyone. Maybe there's someone in your life that's hurting you by the way they treat you, by the way they speak to you, and maybe they don't even know it. Talk to them. Tell them kindly, because how Joseph spoke the truth mattered, and it is true for us. In Ephesians 4:15, it says, "Instead, we will speak the truth in love, growing in every way more and more like Christ." That distinction, truth in love. Has anyone ever told you something truthful not in love? Was it well received? Did it really help the situation? Usually not. We are called to speak the truth and to speak it in love. And that doesn't mean things go smoothly, but what it does is the difference is it lands in a way that is helpful to the other person. And also it gives you a peace that, hey, this was hard and this was difficult, but I can walk away from this situation, even if it's not solved, even if things go wonky, I know I did my best. It gives you a peace. Telling the truth in love makes us more like Christ. And when families know where and when they can go to someone for the truth, there is safety in that. Parents, sometimes you have to speak hard truths to your kids, and not because it's popular or easy, but it's what will protect them. Kids, teenagers, young adults, sometimes telling the truth to your parents or your mentors will cost you in the short term. Maybe you'll have consequences for your actions, but in the long run, you're building trust and you're showing responsibility. Spouses, responsibility means being honest with each other and not just doing what they ask, like, "No, I don't want to watch that show with you. I think it's stupid. Can we do something else?" Or, "I don't want to eat at that restaurant again." It can be silly things or big things, but being honest with each other. Speaking the truth can cost time, comfort, popularity, but it always builds trust time and time again. And the last one is start small. I told you at the beginning there was a time in Joseph's life where allowing his yes to be yes and his no to be no would bring difficulty. But what I want you to see in this point is the blessing that it eventually brought. When Joseph was falsely accused, he was thrown into prison, forgotten, left behind, and instead of sulking, he moved forward one step at a time. It says, "The Lord was with him. He showed him kindness and granted him favor in the eyes of the prison warden." So the warden put Joseph in charge of all those held in prison, and he was made responsible for all that was done there. Even in prison, Joseph was reliable, responsible. He didn't complain about the job that was beneath him. He did it with excellence. And when Pharaoh later had these dreams, Joseph was ready. He'd proven himself. He had done the small things to earn the bigger trust of responsibility. Think about what Pharaoh did. He put a prisoner in charge of his country. Not the obvious choice. But Joseph had proven himself in every little step along the way that he was faithful, that he could be trusted. In Luke 16:10, it says, "Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much." If your family can't trust you with the small things, why would they trust you with the big ones? And maybe you're sitting here today and you don't feel trusted by your family. You're thinking, they don't ask me to help. They don't involve me in things. If someone doesn't see you as responsible, they might not confront you about it. They might just stop including you. So what can you do? Have a conversation. Ask them, hey, is there anything I've done? Apologize for the past. Ask how you can build trust back. Start somewhere. Because the truth is, it's easy for us to blame other people or have a million excuses of why you can't follow through. But at some point, we all have to take responsibility for our own words and our own actions. And that looks different for everybody. I am someone who struggles with anxiety, and I struggle with change in life, even good change. I like things to be the same and comfortable. And so I have been in therapy over the years and different seasons in my life to help me work through that. And I'll never forget, I had my daughter in 2020, and she was about a month old, and I knew what postpartum depression was. And so I was very aware of every feeling I had, and I was kind of trying to figure out how I was doing because I was struggling. And I'll never forget, I told my husband, I said, I think I need to call my therapist. And it's been a few years since I'd seen her, but I could just feel it in my gut. Like, I don't want this to get worse. And so it was hard. I called and made an appointment and got to talk through kind of what I was going through. And she helped me. I was back in therapy for a season to be able to work through that. But I had to take a step to do something, or I was just going to stay where I was at. And who knows how much worse it could have gotten if I didn't take those steps. Little things don't seem like much in the moment, but they really add up. Parents, helping your kids with their homework, teaching them chores, that's not glamorous, but it's shaping their character. Kids, teenagers, young adults, taking care of your room, being on time, doing what you say you're going to do is proving responsibility and building trust. Grandparents, modeling consistency in prayer, encouragement, and being present in your family's life is beautiful, and it builds security. And sometimes we just have to start somewhere. Right now, my 5-year-old daughter loves to fold her own clothes and put them away in her drawer. And it is not a pretty sight, let me tell you. And it's difficult and it's hard, and I just want to take over. But she loves it. And it's a small thing that she's doing that is building up responsibility in her. It might feel mundane. It will test your patience. But when we rethink responsibility as a blessing, you see that every small act you do is shaping character, creating trust, and building a legacy in your family. Faithfulness in the small things opens the door to bigger things. And when you know your family is reliable, it brings a sense of security and confidence. And I want to pause here and say some of you are carrying the incredible responsibility and the weight of caring for aging parents or family members. That's not easy. It takes time, it takes sacrifice, and a lot of love. And I want you to hear me today when I say you are modeling the heart of Jesus. You are doing what Jesus would do, is taking care of your family. You are showing your kids, your grandparents, people around you what it means to be responsible for your family. When we are choosing to be responsible, you might have moments like, does this really matter? Okay, I did a couple good things today. Is that really going to go anywhere? But someday when we look back, we'll see that every opportunity we took to be responsible, the easy ones and the hard ones, every small act of love and faithfulness was worth it. Those little moments weren't wasted, but they shaped your family into being trustworthy and having a huge impact. So, where does God want to turn the burden into a blessing for you? What things are in front of you that you can start viewing as a responsibility, as a blessing to be able to serve your family? Maybe it's leading by example by serving, giving back to other people around you. Maybe it's mending a relationship with someone in your life, being the first to apologize and admit maybe something you did years ago, I don't know. Maybe it's getting involved in a step study or celebrate recovery, making a choice to fix some of the things going on in your life. Maybe it's putting up a boundary with someone in your life or something that to protect you and to protect the people around you. Maybe it's going to therapy. I'm a huge advocate for therapy, whether your problems seem this big or this big. It can be so beneficial for so many people. It's not always in the big, dramatic things that we do, but it's in the daily choices where we choose to show up. It's being present instead of scrolling on our phones. It's modeling integrity and making the good choice even when no one's watching. It's keeping your word when you say you're going to do something. Owning your mistakes instead of blaming someone else. Responsibility looks like following through on what you promised. If you say you're going to be there, be there. If you say you're going to put your spouse first, live it out every single day. I want you to hear this. When families are reliable, homes feel safe. And I'm so thankful I grew up in a safe home, and that is my desire every single day to create that for my kids. When we know we can count on each other, when our yes means yes, the truth is spoken in love, and the little things are handled with care, it creates security that no money or success or achievement can replace. And some of you may be here today thinking, well, great, I've already messed up. I've blown it. My family doesn't trust me. I'm not good at this. I'm not a very responsible person. I've let things go too far, and I don't know how to get back. Here's the good news. With Jesus, failure is never the final word. He doesn't forgive our mistakes, only that. He also restores our ability to be faithful. And just like Joseph had seasons where he was in the pit or he was in prison or he felt forgotten, Jesus met him there. And Jesus does the same for us. He shows up for us when we failed. He shows up when other people have failed us. But we can rise and we can start again, something small, and not in our own strength, because we will never be able to do it, but through his strength. I fall short every single day. As a wife, as a mom, as a friend, as a Christ follower, I'm tired. Every single day I go to bed, I'm exhausted. I don't know about you. But I know that I have Christ in me, and that is how I'm able to get through it. I have a picture in my house above my sink. It says, his mercies are new every morning. And it comes from the scripture from Lamentations. It says, the faithful love of the Lord never ends. His mercies never cease. Great is his faithfulness. His mercies begin afresh each morning. Every morning, I have the opportunity to start again. No matter how tired I was the day before, no matter how long my to-do list is for the next day, I have the opportunity to start again, to make steps. Even if I took 10 steps backwards, I can take a step forward and be responsible, because responsibility isn't about doing things perfectly, or we'd never be able to do it. It's about being faithful. Jesus can take your next step, however small it may be, and turn it into a blessing for your family, your home, and even generations to come. So let me go back to Joseph to end this. Remember all the pain that his family had been through, the betrayal, the strife, the jealousy between him and his brothers. Because of the famine, Joseph's brothers had to go back to Egypt, where the only place for food was. Their family was desperate and hungry. It was Joseph who was faithful, responsible, and wise, who was in a position to provide for them. Here's what Joseph said to his brothers. God has sent me ahead of you to keep you and your families alive and to preserve many survivors. So it was God who sent me here, not you. And he is the one who made me an advisor to Pharaoh, the manager of his entire palace and the governor of Egypt. Now hurry back to my father and tell him, this is what your son Joseph says. God made me master over all the land of Egypt, so come down to me immediately. You can live in the region of Goshen, where you can be near me with all of your children and grandchildren, your flocks and your herds, and everything you own. I will take care of you there, and there are still 5 years of famine ahead of us. Joseph's choices in the middle of a lot of pain. He was faithful, he was courageous, he had integrity, he had forgiveness. And all of that was a huge blessing, not just for him, for Egypt, but for his family. The little choices you make today, when you leave here today, the patience you have with your kids, the patience you have with your spouse, the honesty, the courage to say no when it matters, could be the very thing that God uses to bless your children, your grandchildren, and generations to come. Because responsibility isn't a burden, as sometimes it feels. It is a blessing. So start small, stay faithful. Let Jesus take your small choices and multiply them. That's what he does for us. I want to end this time by praying for us. And what I want to pray specifically for all of you and for me is for strength. Because like I said earlier, I think a lot of us in this room would agree that we're tired at the end of the day. And whether we're physically tired, mentally, emotional, life can be hard. But that doesn't give us an excuse to not be responsible. That doesn't give us an excuse to not do what God has called us to do and to show the love of Christ to our family and to raise up beautiful, beautiful children and people around us who love and honor Jesus. So as tired as we are, I want to pray for us today for strength, for us to be able to lean on each other to get that strength, but ultimately lean on Jesus. So would you pray with me? God, we thank you for who you are. We thank you for the gift of family and friends and people around us, Lord, and we thank you for the gift of responsibility. Lord, I pray for each of us in this room that we continue to see responsibility as a blessing. And when we're tired, Lord, let us lean on you. Let us remember that your presence is always with us. You have gone before us, Lord. We are not alone. And we have you to lean on. And so when the days are long and the nights are rough and the seasons are hard and we maybe don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, Jesus, let us just remember your presence. Remember Joseph's life, that he kept chugging along until you blessed him so greatly, Lord, and we know that you have that for us. We ask for your strength every single day, and we thank you, Lord, that we have you to lean on and we have your strength. Be with these families. Be with us as we leave today. Just be present in our homes, Jesus. We love you. And we all say,